In Homestead, Florida, stands one of this generation's megalithic structures, built by a single man named Ed Leedskalnin. First in Florida City, he relocated the entire castle to Homestead, Florida, where he completed the work. Frequently compared to the pyramids at Giza, the heads of Easter Island, and Stonehenge, we look at Coral Castle. One giant question remains. How did he build this? The only first-hand accounts that we have of other people watching Ed work is only at night, where he has been said to sing to the stones that now make up what he called Rock Gate. Many of these single pieces of rock weigh over 1,000 tons, and the question remains, how did he do this? We explore this question among many other questions about the nature of our reality, hidden technology, mathematics, and the world energy grid. Come along with me on this journey as we look into just how Ed Leedskalnin created Coral Castle. Hello everyone. Welcome to the Yissel Missile Productions channel. My name is Steven Yissel, and today we are on part 28 of looking into Coral Castle. So we are on, I believe, the last two chapters. And we're going to finish it tonight. I know usually we run this show Tuesday evenings about 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Tonight, though, is a little different. We weren't able to do it yesterday. I had other obligations, so we're doing it now. So we're going to knock the rest of this book out right now. And after that, next week, we will be starting the Childress book on anti-gravity and the world grid. So we have 2 chapters today. And I will show that in a moment. So we have chapter 28. Coincidental pattern of oil wells. And chapter 29, Wake Up Earth. And hey Jason, good to see you here. Nice to have you. And thank you. Jason says, nice intro for the series. Yeah, I figured I'd spice it up a little bit from how we started this, where I would just go live with a black background. Like, besides this thing, the sky wasn't in the background in the first few episodes. And then I was doing the slideshow intro with no voiceover, and now I have the voiceover. I think it helps. So, thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate it. So you have to ask, we're 28 parts into this. What have we learned so far that we didn't know before we started this? Well, we know that there's a ley line that runs very close to where Homestead, Florida is. We also know, based off of the Bermuda Triangle Deep Dive series, that this phenomenon is somewhat related in terms of mystery, magnetics, and the ethereal energy grid that we have right below our feet. It's brought up questions of, are we experiencing a natural Earth ley line grid, or was this man-made? Is it as ancient as unknown civilizations that have perished, and now it's just attributed to a natural phenomenon? We've gone into questions about the Great Lakes in North America, where there's also disappearances there. There's some that say that the Great Lakes are filled in quarries. Not what we have been told, that they are the product of glacial melt. So there's a lot of questions that have been brought up here throughout this series. More questions than answers, but they're little pieces to the overall puzzle. And Ed Leedskalnin knew what he was doing, and he likened his knowledge to the Great Pyramids of Giza. The Great Pyramids of Giza, the heads of Easter Island. There was one more. I'm forgetting off the top of my head right now. But you know, you can throw in Puma Punku as one of those other megalithic sites. But you know, there's lost technology for sure. That's something that we've confirmed on this series so far. There's a technology that we are not aware of at this current time. It's been lost. I don't know what else to say on it. We've gone over different free energy devices. Those are in earlier parts of the series. But then we also see antennas at the bottom of the ocean, which that's been confirmed to not be an organic shape that's down there. So we also learned here in the Energy Grid book that atomic bombs cannot detonate if they're not lying on a specific grid point. So I would just advise everyone to look at the world grid lines, and if you are at an intersection, I would get out of there. Because those that are nefarious will try to instill fear into us. They will continue to try to destroy us, even though they need us. They need us to do the busy work, right? Hey Juan, good to see you here. Yeah, feel free to just listen in. I'm not showing too much on screen tonight, but we are finishing this book. There's a few maps here that I will briefly show. Actually, I think there's just one. We only got 11 pages left. Technically, if you want to cut out the map, and a photocopy, it's like 9. But, yeah, like where do we find the answers? And what will we do once we find them? How will we implement the new knowledge? These are yet more questions. So, it's definitely a journey. And I believe that since I'm covering these topics, that it's being purposely suppressed. I don't know what else to say. All you out there that are subscribed to me, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know why you're not getting notifications. There's it's just as mysterious as Coral Castle, the Yisel Missile Productions YouTube channel. The numbers don't match. But anyways, let's get set up here and begin. So I hope you all had a good week. I've been over on Abe's channel, Spiritual Encrypted Encounters. If this is your first time hearing about it, I'd recommend go check out Abe's channel. He covers a lot of interesting things. He gets a lot of captures as well from when he would go walking around in the forest. So he has photographic evidence of a variety of things. And he has good explanations for it, too. Alright. So here's my pictures from 2023. And the slideshow is going to be playing throughout. So let's get started. Chapter 28, Coincidental Pattern of Oil Wells. Scientists report on Kaipara Harbor UFO. Position 1965. Now, Kaipara is spelled Kaipara. Map 13 is a copy of my original grid map showing the positions of recent drill sites off the west coast of New Zealand, indicating another amazing coincidence. Each of these drill sites has been abandoned as a dry hole, and as being of no further use to the oil companies. Possibly a bright mind could find some other use for the holes and make use of their peculiar geometric positioning. The key to the following positions as shown. So it's actually, I'll show the map now, and then we'll talk about what each of these show. So map 13 is Coincidental Pattern of Oil Wells, section of original UFO grid showing surprising relationship of drill sites off the west coast of New Zealand. So I want to say that the dark portion is land, the white portion is water. But you can see how they kind of match up. They fall on grid points. Look at this over here. Cross sections. So very similar to the atomic bombs, I would say. Now, the thing with the atomic bombs is that it's like the molecules need to be energized at certain parts on the grid in order for them to react. And Cathie says in this book that You could try to detonate an atomic bomb off of the grid map, like away from key points, and it will not detonate. So the whole spooky scare, we're in October now, the whole scare of nuclear war, it's not possible, according to this book. There's only certain places and times. So not only location, but time of year as well, as to when the atomic bombs can be detonated. So I'd like to look a little more into that, but this is paralleling that concept, I believe. So below the map here it says, in August 1970, some months after a copy of this map had been lodged with a New Zealand government agency, the Marine Department issued a warning to shipping advising that marker buoys had been placed at a position of 39 degrees 24 feet south and 173 degrees 46 feet east. This position coincides with position K on my original map. I believe that this proves without any doubt that scientists are fully aware of the geometric principles governing the unified or the unifield equations established in this book. And so that goes back into the atomic bomb calculations and everything. So marker A, I'm just going to go over this one at a time here. Marker A is right here by my index finger. You see there's 3 cross sections on that part of the map. The description for that point says UFOs plotted from radar screen at Manjir Airport as previously described. So yes, there's also this whole concept that UFOs have to use the Earth grid as well. Now I think it's more so the UFOs. This is my theorizing here. The UFOs need to use the grid in order to enter and exit this dimension, okay? So then we have grid point B, which is right below A, and there's another cross section. Just move down to the next square. And the description for that is MOA 1B. Now, I don't know what that means. It should... I want to say these are just names that were given to these positions. So the third position is C. And there's another double cross section there. So we've moved vertically down here. That point is labeled Maui 2. Then we have intersection D, which falls way out here in the water. But you can see that there's also a cross section. D is called Tasman 1. Tasman. Then moving on to cross section E, it's down here and it is connected by a line. That might be what Bruce drew. So like he has this grid map and then he drew extra lines to show the intersections. So E is right there by my finger. You can see there's two intersection, or one intersection. There's two lines there. That's labeled drill site off Albatross Point. Then we have cross section F, which it is also on the grid, but it looks like it also falls on one of the lines that Bruce drew here. But it lines up with other points in a straight line. So F is labeled Maui 4. And then we come back up north on the map to intersection G, which is a little off of the grid, but it falls directly in line with these other ones, K, F, and I. G, the description is possible future drill site, and it's a prediction, in parentheses, prediction by us. Next we have intersection H, which is right there. And you see it's also on, it's like just barely touching the grid point, but it is lined up with these other lines that were drawn by Bruce. And then also this smaller circle down here runs through that as well. So H, the description is UFO position published, and that's from Harmonic 33, so that's Bruce's other book from 1968. So that's one that he plotted. Next we have position I, which is at the epicenter of this smaller circle down here. And you can see it's lying inside of a square. But Bruce was able to draw a larger circle up top that runs through that. And he also based this position for the smaller circle. But then he also has a cross line running through over to the left side here. And then the one going up through all these other sites. So position I says plotted position, latitude 39 degrees 24 feet. And we're almost finished with looking at all these ones here. So next we have J. That looks like it's just off the coast. Right there. So that falls directly on the grid lines. It's a double cross section plus the line that Bruce drew to connect all these various points. And J is titled Cook 1. Then a little south of position J is position K. Yeah, right here. That one falls within another square of the grid. But there are 3 cross sections where this is the middle point for all of those cross sections. I'll show it one more time here. So it's like they all run through that one point. And those were lines drawn by Cathie here. K, the description reads, distance D-E and E-I equals 2C/4. I'm not sure what that means. So then we have position L. And I don't think the rest of these are labeled on this. I don't seem to see where L is at. This says position of UFO activity at Port Underwood reported by Mr. and Mrs. C.H. Harris in Harmonic 33, 1968. So that's also Bruce's other book, which this is based off of. So where is L? I really don't see it on here. I want to say, if anything, because there is a little something that looks like an L. You see that right there? I can't really make it out. But we're going to assume it's right there, because I don't know where it's located at. Yeah, it's not even labeled, I don't think. But it looks like that's the correct location. So it's position of UFO activity. Alright, so we're going to continue reading. The copy of a letter that is received from an American scientist, Mr. J. Jackson, so that's a first name initial J, who resides in Auckland City. The letter refers to a survey carried out over the position where I observed the submarine unidentified object in the Kaipara Harbor in 1965. This was the position published in Harmonic 33, and the point from where all my research originated. Hey Brenda, good to see you in here. I was informed by Mr. Jackson that there is now a hole in the harbor bed approximately 1/8 of a mile wide and over 100 feet deep. I feel that this proves that there was indeed an object carrying out some secret project at this point 5 years ago. And there's a little longer description under the map that I was referencing here, so I'm going to read that now. In August 1970, some months after a copy of this map had been lodged with a New Zealand government agency, the Marine Department issued a warning to shipping advising that the marker buoys had been placed at a position of 39 degrees, 24 feet south, 173 degrees, 46 feet east. This position coincides with position K on my original map. So that's where those 3 points intersect that he drew. I believe that this proves without any doubt that scientists are fully aware of the geometric principles governing the unified equations established in this book. I may have read that already. I apologize. I don't know. It's no big deal. It was worth going over again if I did. So next we have a photocopy of a letter. And I will read it out shortly here. But I just want to show it on screen. So it's titled Kaipara Harbor, New Zealand. Position, latitude, 36 degrees, 29 feet. South, longitude, 174 degrees, 19.25 feet east. Weather, fine, clear, cloud 9/10, wind north 2/3, sea confused, bar 30.35, A Cathie. State of tide, on flood. Date, 5th of September 1969. Time, 1200 hours to 1227 hours. New Zealand Standard Time, eastbound. When passing over this area, speed 7 knots. The depth sounder, while indicating an average depth of 40 to 50 feet. The meter needle commenced to swing back and forth from 0 to 120. And in parentheses it says extent of range scale. So it just went all the way. Violently, it says. This continued until the black beacon was abeam. The meter now acted normally. I swung around and returned to this area immediately, and the meter carried on the same way. Then carried on up the main channel to Shelley Beach. Distance 6.5 miles. The depth sounder acted normally the balance of the trip. So then he has underlined checked sounder, accuracy near enough to maker's claim. It was a Marlin MI-20 model, 8 months old, 200 kilohertz. Batteries okay, all connections okay. My son, Carl, aged 7.5, said that the meter, quote, was swinging around like mad, end quote. The sounder has never done this before. The magnetic compass was stable. Written at 1400 hours at Shelley Beach. Signed, J. Jackson, September 5th, 1969. And below this it says, report from the chief engineer of the Ministry of Works, Auckland, regarding the position in the Kaipara Harbor where the submarine-type object was observed. So what does that mean? So we have a depth sounder that has a needle moving. I want to see if I could show this here. So I guess this is something, you know, like how boats have, and like you go fishing, you're able to see the depth of the water. So like you point it down and it could pretty much detect where the land's at. So is this saying it was sitting at 0 and then it went to 120? So the meter needle commenced to swing back and forth from 0 to 120, the extent of the range scale, violently. And this continued until the black beacon was abeam. So I don't know what the black beacon is. Yeah, it was saying it was 40 to 50 feet. It was functioning normally. And then the meter just started to bam, 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 just go back and forth. Like, that's how I would describe it being violently. So what does that mean? If they were hitting 0 depth, they would be scraping up whatever vessel they were on, right? And then if it drops to 120 feet, is this saying that there's like 120 foot holes followed by shallow, maybe remnants of whatever wasn't dug out, if that's what we're getting at. Because let's say the oil wells are being drilled. Maybe some of them were already there from ancient civilizations, and now they're being repurposed by these submerged under... I'm losing words here. The submerged unidentified objects. Or the USOs, unidentified submerged objects. And you know, this was from 1969. I'm pretty sure if this did happen again, then people were told not to report on it. Because, I don't know, the governments like to be sneaky like that. That's just my guess. Alright, now we got 8 pages left. That was the end of chapter 28. We are now on the final chapter of the energy grid. Wake Up Earth, chapter 29. Let's go. I am convinced, beyond any reasonable doubt, that space is the home of countless billions of intelligent beings. Well, sorry, Bruce, Cathie, I think the space that you're talking about is just invisible enough to us, but it's right here with us. That's what I believe. Among those billions, there must be a great percentage of entities whose physical appearance is similar to ours. Again, this is giving credence to the fact that there are like space is infinite and everything. I'm not buying that anymore. I'm not buying it. Okay? As far as I'm concerned, this is the center of everything. Okay? This is the Great Lakes Triangle Deep Dive intro music. Which I'll be making that series public soon. I want to do a few more episodes of reading through the Great Lakes Triangle book before I make the first one public. But those are for members only. If you want to watch them before I make them public to everybody, that's the incentive I give for people to become a member. But yeah, we'll be doing another episode of that soon. Anyway, continuing on. The human form is a highly efficient mechanism, and a design team would find it very difficult to make any improvements. On Earth, we have many variations of this form, but basically we are all very much the same. Because of the growing mass of evidence that indicates we are not the sole owners of the universe, the probability that we will meet a traveler from some other part of our galaxy who looks much like we do is ever increasing. Again, I'm not buying that theory anymore. I used to. Don't get me wrong, I loved Star Wars, all these space operas, sci-fi. I don't know. I'm looking for facts now. I'm still kind of ticked off about the Stanley Kubrick stuff. 2001: A Space Odyssey was released a year before the official moon landings. You go watch 2001: A Space Odyssey in 4K, or even better, if you can find a print in 70mm at one of these art house theaters, go check it out. Look at the detail that's on that film production from 1968, and you tell me whether or not that was a test run or not, if you think so, because I'm convinced that was the audition tape for Kubrick to work with NASA. And again, that's just my speculation. Almost as if Kubrick was like, this is the best I can do. What do you think? And NASA was like, great. We can make it look even poorer quality and it'll pass the public's taste test, right? Now, I was also looking into the moon landing. And we'll carry on reading here after I share this. I was looking into the way that they said everything was broadcast when that mission went on. So they were able to call the president from the moon. And they were also able to broadcast video, not of the landing. That was after the fact. But what was broadcast on television, they transmitted video feed to then go be, I want to say digitized, but this is all analog technology. It got processed so that it could be broadcast to television. Now, how? Just how? You go listen to that phone call that the astronauts made to the president. There's no delay. Just boom, boom, boom. Question, answer, back and forth like a normal conversation. If you're 108,000 miles away, you know, we have some of these live streams that we watch, people are on from other parts of the world. Sometimes there's a little delay, right? And that's just on the surface here. This is talking maybe 10,000 miles max distance between like a live stream host. But we're talking about over 100,000 miles for a telephone transmission, and on top of that, they were using broadcast cameras, technology from the 1920s. Why use 40-year-old technology for one of your, well, I want to say the crown jewel of the government of the 60s it was Kennedy's project, but who knows how much of it actually went through. I'm trying to find what I posted on Twitter about this. Give me a second here. So it was SSTV with 10 frames per second broadcast to a lunar S-band antenna with tech from the 1920s. "10 frames a second." Now, there's also technology from the 1920s called the Bolex camera. And you know, I might be off a few years with that, because I'm just talking from experience here, but I used a wind-up camera in college called the Bolex. It has a metal spring inside, which is what you wind up, and you could film anywhere from, 20 to 30 seconds of film to I think 3 minutes. You would assume that's what they would take up there, right? Because we're talking hypothetically here. You're in an atmosphere that has less gravity. And with the tension of winding up that spring, it's a spring-loaded camera. So when you hit the record button, which is just, I mean, it's all mechanical, I think you'd be able to film something with that while you're there, but you wouldn't be able to broadcast that. So I don't know why they're saying that they were broadcasting from SSTV, 10 frames a second, to an S-band antenna. It makes no sense to me. So SSTV is slow scan television. And this was used by amateur radio operators. And it was mostly used to transmit and receive static pictures via radio in monochrome or color. So we have black and white in 68 from the moon. Doesn't make sense. So what year did Wizard of Oz come out? 1939. You're telling me 30 years of color film and television, and all that NASA could get was black and white? The questions continue to mount. Alright, we're going to get back into reading now, but I think that was very important to cover. The acceleration of technical knowledge in recent times makes this prospect almost a certainty in the near future. Anyone who is interested enough to search through all the available evidence in the world today will find, to his astonishment, that there are very strong indications that contact with alien intelligences has already been accomplished by a number of individuals throughout history. And I believe so. But these are interdimensional beings. These contacts have invariably been treated by the authorities at the time with ridicule or hostility. The contacts, which they have been unable to hush up, have been written into religious tracts, such as the India transcripts, the books that they wrote. They documented a lot of personal accounts, and I cover that in the Bermuda Triangles show. It's I believe the one from last Friday. Let me reread this. The contacts, which they have been unable to hush up, have been written into religious tracts as visitations by angels or various emissaries of the gods who supposedly rule the heavens. Every method possible has been used to make certain that the public at large is kept ignorant of the fact that we are not alone. The reason for this massive con job is not completely clear, but possibly greed and a fear by the comparatively small group of people who decide our destiny that they will lose control of the ordinary individual, like you and me, if the truth is known, ensures that the evidence is suppressed. One of the main arguments brought up in recent years, as the increasing number of sightings of strange objects in the sky has aroused public interest, is that if, quote, they, end quote, exist, why is it that astronomers or other scientific people do not see them? In actual fact, many of these people have seen unexplainable objects in the sky and out in space. Unfortunately, they would probably lose their jobs if they made too much of a fuss about it. Doesn't that suck? Money is keeping people from sharing the truth with others. In the early stages of my own research, I was threatened with this very same thing, but common sense prevailed, and I am still happily flying aircraft for a living, and as far as I am aware, within certain bounds, am in control of my own destiny. How long this will last is probably debatable. Mr. William Moser, President of the British Astronomical Association and General Secretary of UFOIC Sydney, has brought attention to the fact that a great number of men of science have observed strange occurrences throughout recorded history. He lists some 30-odd cases of sightings by astronomers and scientists dating from the 7th of February, 1802 to the 23rd of August, 1966. In the newsletter of July-August 1973. Objects varied from cigar, disc, and ovoid shaped, and with sizes from 3 meters to 2 kilometers in diameter, both stationary and moving. Hi, Ivy. Thank you for joining us here. This is only a small percentage of sightings which can be found by searching through old records. The general UFO type publications list many of these. I believe that researchers like myself read all this mass of material and get to the stage where they say to themselves, quote, okay, I know they are out there and that every now and then a contact takes place. But what is to be done next? End quote. The obvious thing to do, as I have attempted to show in my writings, is to find scientific evidence which will help us to emulate the activities of the intelligences which we are continually observing invading our airspace. The time is past when long lists of sighting reports and unsubstantiated speculation will help us to advance our own knowledge or to make progress. This information is essential in the early stages of a research project, but eventually we have to stop gathering new data and start using the stuff to form the basis of a new science. This is my main objection to many of the large international UFO organizations scattered around the world. Since the late 1940s, they have gathered together massive amounts of evidence of UFO activity and related data. Their boards of directors and consultants list dozens of names of scientists, mathematicians, physicists, astronomers, and academics in all fields. Besides this, they have direct access to computer facilities into which they can feed the truckfuls of information they have collected, hopefully to come up with some sort of intelligent analysis. Years have gone by, yet nothing has happened, so far as the public are aware. I am very surprised and very suspicious. As an individual with access to none of this sophisticated know-how and technical machinery, I have been able to discover many areas where a small amount of research should bring a great spin-off of new knowledge. I am perhaps tenacious in my efforts to discover new concepts, but I have only an average education and level of intelligence. It is quite obvious to me that many of these organizations are not making known their findings and that the public are being kept blissfully in the dark. Wake up, Earth! We are being taken for a ride, and the time has come to demand the truth. As I have pointed out earlier in this book, if space is being traversed by vehicles controlled by advanced intelligences, we would expect to intercept some sort of communication signals which are obviously being passed between the space vehicles and various bases scattered around the cosmos. It's actually a good point made. Unless they're just using thought for... Because he's basing this off of all the... We should be intercepting like radio signals or something of them communicating to each other. These things can speak to us in our mind from some of these accounts. Actually, there's many of them where telepathic conversations are documented. Continuing on, initially the interception of such signals would probably be accidental, as we would not be sure of the electronic principles behind long-distance communications over the millions of miles of space. Eventually, after scientific analysis, the concepts would be understood and a full-scale project could be contemplated, which would hook us into the galactic switchboard. And this, I believe, is exactly what has happened. So he thinks that's already happened. All right. As I was nearing completion of this book, I received another letter from Mr. Cook of Derbyshire, England. My writings have sparked him off on an independent line of calculations, and from the information received from him, it appears that he is on the way to opening up more areas for serious research. He decided to take a close look at some radio signals that were received from space in 1928, using the basis of harmonic mathematics that I formulated in my original work. The radio signals were recorded in the 1920s by Norwegian, Dutch, and French experimenters. It was suggested in recent years that the long-delayed echoes of equally spaced radio signals transmitted from Earth could be interpreted in the form of a code. Mr. D.A. Lunan, that's spelled Lunan, a graduate of Glasgow University, carried out an analysis along these lines and concluded that the echoes were being broadcast from a space probe in orbit somewhere in the vicinity of our moon. The theory is that if an advanced civilization wished to contact us, they would leave a space satellite in Earth orbit, waiting quietly through the centuries until our technology reached the stage where we were able to interrogate it. I believe that the space probe is out there, and that is programmed to teach us how to get out into space and join the galactic community. You know the first thing I think of? The Black Knight satellite? That could be what that is. Mr. Lunan suggests that the signals identify the probe's origin as the double star Epsilon Bootis. That's spelled Epsilon Bootis, and puts its arrival in Earth orbit at somewhere around 13,000 years ago. So I'm just confused as to what Epsilon is. I haven't heard of any of this. Alright, continuing on. Another investigator made the comment that such probes might listen for our radio signals and repeat them back to us after obvious delays, such as those reported in the 1920s. It is thought that the device is still in orbit waiting for its secrets to be unlocked. The APRO Bulletin of March-April 1973 states, and this is an excerpt I'm going to read and I'll let you know when it's over. American experimenters Taylor and Young first reported echoes coming from apparent distances of 2,900 to 10,000 kilometers in 1927. Halls, an engineer, reported to Carl Stormer of Oslo that echoes of 3 seconds delay had been heard at Eindhoven, Holland. On October 11th, 1928, Carl Stormer, with Halls, helped by Van der Poel, that's 3 words, VANDERPOL, transmitting from Eindhoven, picked up 3-second echoes on 31.4 meters, which changed to echoes varying from 3 to 15 seconds. In parentheses, signal pulses were transmitted at 20-second intervals. End parentheses. Echoes were received in the following delay sequence. And this could be communication too, so keep this in mind. 8 seconds. 8 to 11. Yeah, for 8 seconds. 11 to 15 seconds. 8 seconds. 13 seconds. 3 seconds. 8 seconds. 8 seconds. 8 to 12 seconds. 15 seconds. 13 seconds. 8 seconds. And 8 seconds. In 2 cases, 2 echoes were heard 4 seconds apart. To the author, the series of 3-second echoes without Doppler shift constitute the statement, quote, "Here I am in the orbit of your moon," end quote. Have any of you heard about this? 'Cause this is new information to me. Quote, "Here I am in the orbit of your moon," end quote, while the varied series means something much more elaborate. He constructed a graph and plotted the delay time of each echo of the Van der Poel series against its position in the sequences presenting double echoes on the same line. When delay time was graphed horizontally, the result was a striking resemblance to the constellation Bootes. Bootes was missing, but when the 3-second point was transferred from the left of the vertical barrier formed by the 8-second points, it completed the constellation figure by marking the position of Epsilon Bootes. This is interpreted to mean that Epsilon Bootes is the origin of the probe. And that's the end of the excerpt. Alright, I'm going to screen share because I have no idea what this thing is. And I'm even having trouble understanding what we're looking at here. So let's see this. Oh, great. It's all in foreign writing. Okay. Not sure what we're looking at here. Well, here we go. Now, where's this in relation to us? It's in the north constellation of Bootis. Let's see. Okay, we got Ursa Major. Oh, we got, okay, Virgo. We got Arcturus. And it looks like this square is Bootis. And this is what appears in the night sky to us, so I don't know where exactly this would be located. These images are so pixelated, I don't even know. Oh, this is better. Sorry, but this isn't ever talked about from anything I've looked into. Aha! This is what I was looking for. So there it is. So the northeast of Arcturus. To the left of the Big Dipper. I'll just leave this up. I do not wish to disagree with Mr. Lunan's interpretation of the space signals when subjected to this type of analysis. What I do believe, however, is that the received signals and others waiting to be triggered are for the purpose of teaching us scientific knowledge pertaining to the universe itself. Many different types of information are sure to be coded into the system. I had heard of the radio signals in Mr. Lunan's work, but up until recently I had not spent any time in trying to decipher them. I was occupied with so many other interesting projects that I shelved this particular line of thought for some future date. That was until I received the letter from Mr. Cook. He had found many interesting mathematical associations between the space signals and my harmonic calculations. The most important and interesting piece of information that he passed to me was that the transmission which triggered the space echoes was broadcast on 31.4 meters. and that when this wavelength was converted into minutes of arc value to compare it with grid harmonics, the answer was 0.016944 minutes of arc. And 169.444 is the harmonic speed of light. This was an amazing piece of news. The signals were tuned to the most important harmonic of 16944, as shown in other sections of my work. This must be a universal wavelength which will plug us into the space network. Did someone know something as far back as 1928? And are we about to make a serious attempt to communicate, as evidenced by the massive radio grid being constructed in the United States? Are we receiving other signals from the heavens which to us could be classed as divine? There are many powerful religious groups in the world, each of them vying for the minds of man and promising various states of salvation or damnation for those of us who choose to reject their particular doctrine. It is very difficult for the ordinary person like me, who has a belief in some overall divine intelligence controlling the universe, to sort out which particular religious group is nearest to the truth. After all, if we as individuals are going to place our souls in the hands of one of these groups, we want to be very sure that they are not going to mess around or mess about with them. Out of all the thousands of religions, there can only be one which is treading the path to absolute truth. Maybe none of them are. We shall only be sure when we pass from this life and have a look for ourselves. In the meantime, we can only choose the particular group that suits us best, or remain out of them all and search for truth in our own way. My attention has recently been drawn to one of the major religions of modern day, as a result of my delving into the mathematical mysteries of the universe. Time magazine published an article on this religion in the issue of September 16th, 1974, headed, quote, "Behind the Temple Walls," end quote. Some statements in the article are as follows. So here's an excerpt. To the people of other faiths, the Mormon temple is an impenetrable piece of mystery. Only Mormons in good standing can participate in the holy, quote, ordinances, end quote, that are performed in the temple precincts, or even visit the rooms where they are performed. Although the exterior of the temple is striking, 288 feet tall from the ground to the tip of the angel Moroni's trumpet, and encased in 17,300 square feet of gleaming white Alabama marble, the interior does not inspire awe. Divided into dozens of rooms on 9 levels, the temple has nothing comparable to the great nave and towering sanctuary of a traditional Christian cathedral. Yeah, well, cathedrals are much taller than 9 stories. Indeed, the Mormon temple is not built for regular worship. In parentheses, that purpose is served by thousands of local ward meeting houses, end parentheses. But for, quote, temple work, end quote, the performances of various church duties and doctrinal study. To the outsider, the rooms seem to serve a function rather than majesty. And that's the end of the excerpt. Has divine guidance had a hand here and inspired elders of the church to design a temple that reaches 288 feet into the air? to broadcast the voices of us mortals to the gods in the heavens? Out of curiosity, I wondered if divine guidance had any influence in the actual planning of one of these temples in a geometric sense. From my own work, I had discovered that geometric location on the structure of the earth had profound effects on physical manifestations. Possibly the spiritual part of our nature could benefit by the effects of specific geometric location. On April 20th, 1958, a Mormon temple was dedicated at Temple View, Hamilton, New Zealand. My wife and I had been taken on a conducted tour of some parts of this temple shortly before it was closed off from public view. What we saw of the interior structure was very impressive, but in some ways strange to us, not being familiar with the Mormon beliefs. I checked the placement of the temple on a survey map, and the following coordinates were evident. I like when Bruce does this. Latitude 37 degrees 49 feet 40 inches south. Longitude 175 degrees 13 feet 28 inches east. I have shown in my earlier works that this position could be associated with grid harmonics, but now that I have access to much more accurate computers, I was able to discover a quite startling fact. Hey, my mom's in the chat. Say hello to Donna, everyone. Thanks for watching. I appreciate that, Mama. But first, an extract from the book, quote, Essentials in Church History, end quote, by Joseph Fielding Smith, regarding the survey for the temple block at Salt Lake City. So here's an excerpt. So there's two titles and descriptions, so we're going to read both of them. First title: The Place for the Temple. During the westward journey, the building of a temple was a constant theme. On the evening of the 28th of July, President Young and the apostles, with Thomas Bullock, the clerk, walked from their camp northward to a spot between the forks of City Creek, and there President Young designated a site for the building of a temple. Waving his hand, he said, quote, Here is the 40 acres for the temple, and the city can be laid out perfectly square, north and south, east and west, end quote. So they built their temple and then built cities around it, symmetrically. So then the second title here is Orson Pratt's Survey. The survey of the city was made by Orson Pratt. His line was on the southeast corner of the temple block. Beginning at that point, the city was marked out into blocks of 10 acres each. It was decided by the brethren that instead of using 40 acres for the site, it would be better to have that block conform in size with the others. According to Orson Pratt's calculations, the latitude of the north boundary of the temple block was 40 degrees, 35 minutes, and 34 seconds. So, okay, hold on. I guess what I've been saying in feet and inches with degrees is actually minutes and seconds. So again, my apologies on that one. The longitude was 111 degrees, 26 minutes, and 34 seconds west of Greenwich. The altitude was 4,300 feet above sea level. Later government observations varied from these of Elder Pratt, but slightly. And that's the end of the excerpt. From the above, it seems that the temple block was surveyed very accurately. I had a hunch that if I checked the geometric placement of the New Zealand temple in relation to the first temple in Salt Lake City on the computer, something interesting might turn up. And it did. The great circle displacement in seconds of arc between the two temples is 371,244 seconds, with a margin of error of a few hundred feet. My latest book, quote, The Bridge to Infinity, harmonic 371244, will show that this is the reciprocal harmonic of the value 2693645, derived from the unified equation. And you know what? I need to take note of this. All right. My latest book, quote, The Bridge to Infinity, harmonic 371244, end quote, will show that this is the reciprocal harmonic of the value 2693645 derived from the unified equation. According to the speed of light at the Earth's surface, 143,795.77 minutes of arc per grid second. Have the Mormons been given the secrets of the unified field? Other geometric areas of the Earth's surface, which I have mentioned before in my writings, are those where the normal gravitational fields are grossly distorted. These small localized positions have been of great interest to scientists in recent years, and no logical explanation has yet been given for the queer physical effects experienced within the boundaries of an anomaly area. If a plumb bob is suspended within the distorted field, it will not hang vertically but at an angle. People who walk into such an area start walking with a lean on. Light itself appears to be distorted. And photos taken of objects within the influence of the gravity warp from outside the area show all sorts of queer effects. Depending on position, for instance, objects can appear either physically elongated or shortened. According to reports, at least 7 of these areas have been located on the North American continent. Things are getting spooky here. More information is gradually filtering out regarding these anomaly areas, and I have discovered several mathematical leads in connection with the effects, which I intend to follow up in later research. One of the best known anomalies is called the Oregon Vortex, the position of which is given as 42 degrees 29 minutes 40 seconds north and 123 degrees 5 minutes west. The area is circular with a diameter of just over 165 feet. The Oregon Vortex. A series of force lines has been discovered passing through the circle, running east-west and north-south, 5 lines one way and 6 lines the other. The given information does not indicate how the position was calculated, whether by map reference or by a very accurate star survey. I am not completely happy with the accuracy of this position, so I will leave the analysis of the associated geometric harmonics until a later date. However, the great circle displacement of the position from longitude 180 degrees at the same latitude is very close to 41.1636 degrees. The square of this value being the 169444 harmonic. A theoretical diameter for the area, which would be very close to the given value of around 165 feet 4 inches, would be 165 feet 3.76524 inches. This would give a conversion diameter of 163.13859 geodetic or grid feet. Converted to grid inches, we have 1,957.6631 geo/inches. The volume of a sphere with a diameter of 1,957.6631 grid inches equals 3,928,371,000 cubic grid inches. So we're talking 4 billion cubic grid inches. This would be a harmonic of the resultant field strength of the Earth, in parentheses, 3,928, 3,928.371 lines of force per square geodetic inch, end parentheses, as shown in my earlier work. This rough calculation would indicate that a spherical field is being produced in the gravity anomaly area, harmonically tuned to the magnetic field of the Earth. The force lines discovered passing through the area could have some connection with the harmonic of the speed of light. I found that if I divided the number of force lines east-west by those north-south, 5 divided by 6, the value was 0.83333, repeating. The square of this figure is 0.694444, repeating. The reciprocal of 144, which is the harmonic speed of light. The distorted optical effects in the area could be controlled by this factor. We're on the last page, by the way. Oh, Brenda, it's all good. Yeah, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. It is my hope that at some time in the future, arrangements can be made to visit one of these areas and to have accurate measurements taken with all the necessary scientific instruments. The relationship with the grid structure can then be thoroughly investigated by use of computers and harmonic mathematics. My studies have led me up many paths over the last few years and helped me to understand that the universe and all things in it are interrelated. If the unified equations which I have formulated prove to be valid, or even partially valid, when checked by the academics, then the time I have spent on my research will be of some value. If what I have written is sufficient to prove that not all knowledge can be found in the standard textbooks, and others are encouraged to carry out independent research, I shall be happy. Well, Bruce, you found one in me here. The most important aspect to be aware of is that we have neighbors out there, and that we must change our attitudes if we wish to join them. Wake up, Earth. We are about to be taken out of isolation. And that is the end of The Energy Grid by Bruce L. Cathie. I get chills just thinking of the Oregon Vortex. I wonder if he looked into that more in the Bridge to Infinity book. Wow. Give me one moment here. So this really is, get this off of here. Today's show has convinced me that we should look at these other books by Bruce Cathie. So real quickly. It lists on the back here in green The Bridge to Infinity and The Harmonic Conquest of Space. I do not believe I've picked those up. But all of these in red, I have every single one of them. And actually 3 from the bottom. Anti-Gravity and the World Grid. Right here. And this is the other book. So the first book that we read starting this series said read or look into the Energy Grid and Anti-Gravity and the World Grid. These were 2 recommended readings from the very first book we started in this series. We now have completed this book. It is done. Now it's going into the reference library. Now, up next, for next week, we will be starting Anti-Gravity and the World Grid, edited by David Hatcher Childress. Whew. You know, just a little preview here. It's gonna get wild. Okay. That's all I'll say. So you're here with me this far. We are about to enter unknown territory. All right. All of these books are printed in Illinois. And here, I'm sitting in Illinois right now. I've lived in Illinois my whole life. So the Energy Grid was manufactured by Adventures Unlimited Press in Kempton, Illinois. This edition published in 1997. The one we read from. And the first print, I think, was 1990. And then Anti-Gravity and the World Grid, also by Adventures Unlimited Press, but in Stell, Illinois. Stelle. This is a first printing from January of 1987. So a full 2 years before I was even a matter existing. A thought in the head. There are a lot of interesting pictures. There's ley lines. There's maps. There's more equations, although not as many as probably in the hydrology grid. We'll be talking about maritime. Different excerpts from newspapers from the 1940s. Philadelphia experiment. We're going into all of it. And just like in Bruce Cathie's book, we have this antenna at the bottom of the ocean. So this is a collection of works, and I guess each chapter is the different work. We're going to be looking into Kabbalah. We will be looking at different variations of the Earth grid. Stuff we didn't see in Bruce Cathie's book. We're in for a wild, wild part of this series. Okay? And all to do with mathematics. Oh, wow. Okay, so this is what we're in for. You cannot put the toothpaste back in the tube. This is just where we're at now. So that'll do it for today. We do have quite a bit planned into the future. I think we have up through January planned. Let's just take a quick look here. Yeah. So there's 13 chapters, but I believe let's see. 13 chapters, but we'll cover everything within... Oh. Yeah, within third... Yeah, every episode we'll do from here on out, every part will be a chapter, so 13 chapters. Yeah, I had already planned this out in advance. Except... Oh no, some of them will be shorter. Anyways, I have it all planned out. There's just one chapter 6, Ley Lines in the Meaning of Adam. That's going to be a two-parter, because it's 60 pages. You can already tell, like, Bermuda Triangle, that series on Thursdays, usually we read entire chapters that are 20 pages long. So it's about 10 pages per hour read out loud, plus all of my commentary in between, before and after. And would you believe that all of this is just scratching the surface? I have much more material to cover than just this alone. Okay? So I figure that's a pretty decent preview of this next upcoming book. So we're done with the energy grid now. I recommend everyone to go out and get it. It's pretty cheap online. It's just having the interest and the time to sit down and go through the literature. Today, a lot of people are distracted by social media. Our cell phones are the culprit of many distractions. But when you're here on Yissel Missile Productions channel, with myself as the host, you'll get concentrated topics, no distractions. But we have a long way to go. I don't even... This is going through January, and I have at least 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... at least 7 other books related to this topic. Maybe I'll finish it by the end of Trump's second term. You know? Who knows? We'll get to part 400. Maybe I'll finish it, right? No, but in all seriousness, this is going to be an ongoing series until we get to the information that has been suppressed. Because we've already had a lot of eureka moments with these few books that we've covered so far. This has taken 8 months to go through all the stuff from the gift shop at Coral Castle, and then just to finish one of 2 recommended readings from the first book. And you can see on the spine here, they have Easter Island heads. Because all of this stuff's connected, you see? Let's read the chat here. Hey, Zanty17. Good to see you, Zandy. And you're very welcome. Zandy17 says, thank you for your research and shows. It's an honor to do all this. In a time where social media is robbing everyone's attention spans, we have this space here to have focus and talk about true wonders of the world. Things that we don't have answers to. This isn't going to be some 5-10 minute explanation for Coral Castle. I think that's very obvious by now. But next week we'll start Anti-Gravity in the World Grid. We're getting into unknown territory at this point. We already went into unknown territory, but now it's getting even more so. And there were some books that were really hard to get. Some of these books, I think, are marked so expensive as to discourage people from researching this topic. But rest assured, you'll get this information here. And we'll be doing this once a week. 2 weeks from now, maybe we'll do another Wednesday show. We'll see how it turns out. Because from the 11th through the 14th, I'm going to be away. I'm going to be out of town. So plan on tomorrow or today, it's 1 a.m. in the morning here in Chicago. today, Thursday, later tonight, I have it scheduled for 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. But I have other things I'm doing from 5 to 7. I'm collecting signatures for political candidates in my area. It's actually a source of income for me, so I need to get that done. Let's say Bermuda Triangle at 11 p.m. again tomorrow. I know it's going to run into... Unless I do it at 2. You know what? Let's do it early during the day. Because I don't know how else to fit all this in my schedule. Like, you see, I could very easily just straight up stop doing all of these videos, but I'm not going to do that. But if I were to do that, I'd have other things fill in the time. No problem. I'd be getting other things taken care of a little more quickly. But I'm committed to looking into all this. So let's say early afternoon, 13 hours from now, I'll go ahead with this for Bermuda Triangle, for the other show that is usually this week on Thursdays. So it'll be earlier, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, roughly. It's going to go about 2 hours. This went a little longer than usual, but it was jam-packed with information at the end here. Like, I want to look more into the Oregon Vortex. I actually want to get the other 2 books by Bruce Cathie, The Bridge to Infinity and The Harmonic Conquest of Space. There's also videos out there that, like, it took me a long time to find of Bruce Cathie. There's nothing on YouTube. There's nothing on BitChute. There's one video on Rumble, and I had to screen record it. There was no other way to get it. On these other like hacker sites, I'm not going to mention any of them, but you couldn't even find it on there. I have one Bruce Cathie book. Actually, yeah, the Energy Grid. I'm trying to get a PDF copy of it. I can't even. That download is dead. You know that? Brenda says, I can't see, so you read to me. Thank you, Brenda. Zandy says, sending love and protection to you and every good guy out there. Thank you, Zandy. Brenda says, fire your governor. Yeah. Oh, I will. I'll be voting against that guy. If I'm still here a year from now. If I'm still in Illinois. Which I should be. You never know, though. Things can change pretty quickly. But yeah, in the meantime, I'll be taking care of that. This week and next week, I'm going out every day collecting signatures. Because it's what I have to do. I have to pay my bills somehow. And I need spending money to do the things I want to do. So this is my solution. I need to adjust the schedule a bit. But that'll do it for today. I thank y'all for being here, and catch me tomorrow for the Bermuda Triangle. And if you want to get a head start on the Great Lakes Triangle series that I've started on this channel, I think I have 2 episodes up, maybe 3. I think it's 2 so far. You can become a member of the channel. I have 2 different tiers. I believe one is $10 and the other's $20. I'm working on getting those extra videos out to all of you that are members. So thank you for hanging in there with me. Part of the membership is keeping me accountable to be here every week with the public lives. That's also an incentive with all of that as well. And that membership money gets put into purchasing these books. But I went out ahead of myself. I got all these books ahead of time. And so now I want to say at this current rate, I'll get paid out 3 times a year from Google, hopefully more. So I'm only making $300 a year from Google, but it's something. $300 per year. Just think about that. If I was here to make money for a living off of this like that, it's not sustainable. So I'm doing this out of passion. And the money will follow. But this is concentrated research, and I'm making sure that we're covering all of our bases. We're not leaving any stone unturned. And that's the bottom line, 'cause Stone Cold says so. Alright? Alright, I'm getting out of here. Thank you, everybody. Please make sure to hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Next week, we'll start this crazy book. And when I use the word crazy, I mean interesting. It will challenge a lot of people and their concepts of reality. But keep in mind that everything is energy, including thoughts. So think good thoughts. Don't get stuck in negativity. Alright? Until the next one, class dismissed.